Colby and I have put together a handful of Mariners over-unders that we'll discuss coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. This is Tony Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, you can check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. So today we've come up with some 2025 Mariners over-unders that we're going to discuss, and this is kind of the prelude to our predictions episode that we'll be doing closer to opening day. So let's get right into them. We'll start with a prop that Colby came up with, and that's Mariners rotation 2.5 top 10 Cy Young vote recipients. While I think that really anyone in this rotation could finish in the top 10 in Cy Young voting, I'm gonna take the under here, mostly because I don't trust the voting process. And I think even if there are 3 or more guys in the Mariners rotation that are more than deserving of finishing in the top 10, I don't think they'll get in there, because there's going to be a couple of relievers that sneak in there. And there's going to be, of course, guys from the 14 other teams are also going to have pretty good seasons on top of that. I'll go with 2, though. I'll say that Bryce Miller and Logan Gilbert get in here. But just saying 3 or more are going to get into the top 10 is stretching it for me.
Is it, though? Because I'm here to tell you the Mariners have 5 of the 10 best pitchers in the American League, especially now that Cole's out.
I mean, they might. Does that mean that the voters are actually going to put them in the top 10 in the Cy Young voting?
BBWAA has never gotten anything wrong. Okay, they are a perfect group.
Flawless.
So, yes. Their logic is impeccable. You can't punch holes in their arguments. So I think the X factor here is probably going to be Kirby. We don't know how many starts he's going to miss. I mean, I know the Mariners are hoping it's only 1 or 2, but if that turns into 4 and 5, it's going to be a little bit hard for him to catch up, essentially, because he'll have to be, really, really good to kind of make up for not having as much, as many counting stats as somebody who's going to stay healthy all year. So if he only misses a start or 2, he might be able to get back in time. And obviously he would have to improve off of what he did last year. On top of that, it's not just about health with Kirby, but I think Miller, Kirby, and Gilbert could all get top 10 votes. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Wu exploded this year and he got Cy Young votes. And, I think people forget, like Luis Castillo, I think finished 6th in the Cy Young voting in 2023. That's not that long ago. So, I mean, all 5 of these guys certainly have the possibility of finishing in the top 10. I mean, honestly, they all have the possibility of winning the thing. I mean, 3, anytime you have to count on the writers to do the right thing, I'm really skeptical that could happen. And we'll see if they even end up with 3 guys who deserve to be top 10 Cy Young. I think they did last year, though. I think Gilbert, Miller, and Wu, but Wu just didn't have the counting stats. He just didn't get going soon enough. So, I think they could do it. I wouldn't be shocked if all 5 of them got a Cy Young vote somewhere down the line. But top 10, 3 of them, I'll go under.
And I mean, last year also, like to your point about last year, like Kirby was top 10 in all of baseball in F4. Pitchers, so like he could have easily, you could have easily made an argument for him there as well. So they could have had 4 guys, right? But it's just the under is the easy answer here for me, because just the voting process, and there's just so many guys that there's just so many variables that have to be overcome here, really.
I guess I'll take the under, but I think 2.5 is the right number.
Speaking of 2.5, how about 2.5 All-Stars for the Mariners? This is in totality, by the way. So, like, even if they are selected, but they end up having to be replaced, and also if any Mariners replace guys that have to be replaced.
Oh, so we're not counting those type of players as half All-Stars?
No.
Darn. Because, like,
you can't push here.
Ty France could be like half an all-star. And like, what if they don't really deserve to be, but like the Mariners have to have somebody like Daniel Vogelback? Is that like a half all-star? I mean,
well, then you would just take the under here.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about this, like the surprising number of like all-star caliber players the Mariners have on their roster. Julio, Randy, all 5 starting pitchers, Munoz.
Cal.
So yeah, I mean, maybe Robles if he did what he did last year. So yeah, I think they're going to get 2 starters, and I think they're going to get Julio. So I think they get at least 3. So I'm going to say over.
Yeah, I think 2.5, especially if we're considering guys who could end up replacing other guys that are initially selected. That's a fairly easy bar to clear. So yeah, I'll say they get 3. I'll say Julio. I'll say really just pick a starting pitcher. Logan would be the safest bet, but I'm also really high on Bryce Miller this year. And then maybe Munoz or Cal. This should be finally the year. Yeah, this should finally be the year that Cal gets the recognition that he deserves.
Cal should have made it the last 2 years also.
Yeah.
And he didn't. So I'm sure it'll end up being Adley and like Jonah Heim or some
Salvador
garbage.
Perez.
Yeah.
Even
not
though
even
he's
really
like
a catcher.
Even though he'll only like have caught like 45 games up to that point.
And the All-Star bid thing like doesn't really matter except when you start talking about Hall of Fame resumes. And Cal Raleigh is currently on a trajectory where we might want to start talking about him. Hey, is this a future Hall of Famer? We might want to start considering that. So yeah, those things kind of matter. Hopefully Cal makes it. But again, I don't trust this process to do the right thing. So, I mean, we know the Mariners are going to get at least 1. So do they get 2 more? Yeah, I think they probably do. I would hope one of them is Cal. Like I said, honestly, you could tell me the Mariners are going to have 5 all-stars, and I'd be like, okay. I don't know.
That's what I was about to say. Like, if you told me they had 6, yeah. If you told me they had 1, yeah.
Yeah, kind of the tricky part with the Mariners is that, the starting lineup is fan vote, and they're just not going to win any fan vote. So it's kind of tricky. They have 9 fewer spots to get in than players who play on more popular teams. So that's a little bit of a tricky spot to be in. So they just have fewer opportunities than those other players. But yeah, I think Julio, 2 starters, probably the most likely path to 3. But I do think Cal's in there. I think Rosarena has enough of a name and a track record that he could get in if he has a nice first half. Robles, Munoz, maybe even Brash. Who knows? Yeah, I'll take the over.
Victor Robles, 1.95 F4. This was another one that you set. We talked about him quite a bit yesterday. We obviously talked a lot about him in general this offseason. The primary topic of that discussion has been how much is he going to regress, right? And so this prop here that you put together basically asks a very simple question. Is Victor Robles going to be an everyday player or not in 2025? Because 2 wins, that's pretty much the bar to clear in order to be considered an everyday player. I think the answer to that question is yes. So I'll take the over here. I don't know how over, but I think with his athleticism, his defensive capabilities, what he can do on the base pass, as long as he can at least hit a little bit, I think he'll get to that 2-win mark fairly easy. Just how much more can he add on top of that is really the question.
I'll take the over as well because of the base running and the defense. And I do think he's probably going to be at least a 90 to 100 WRC plus type of guy at the very least. But the scenario where he doesn't get there is that the bad is so bad, like Washington, Victor Robles bad, that he just loses playing time, and they put Raley out in the outfield more and more and more, and he kind of becomes a bench guy, and then he doesn't get enough at bats or enough opportunities for the defense and the base running to really collect value, because WAR is a cumulative stat. So that's the downside there with Robles. I think he'll be good enough offensively to be an everyday player. I do think ultimately Robles is best served as being a 4th outfielder who plays, 3-4 times a week instead of 6 or 7 times a week. and you kind of pick your matchup and you use them when guys are tired and somebody needs a DH day, blah, blah, blah. I think that's what you want Robles to be. But I think after what he did last year, you have to give him a shot to see how real that is. And so I don't have a problem with him being a starting outfielder right now. I wish they would have gotten some insurance in case he is that bad, but surprise, they didn't. That would have cost money. So I'll take the over, but there is definitely some downside here, like we talked about yesterday. But I feel like he's going to play enough, and with the defense and base running, he'll get to 2.
For sure. All right, we are going to go over more over-unders in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk or on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snackin' and get crackin' with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Let's continue going over these over-unders. Let's go with another one that you came up with, Colby. Luke Raley, 19.5 home runs. So he hit 19 in 2023 with the Rays. He hit 22 last year in his first year with the Mariners. I'll go over. It's pretty easy power for Luke Raley.
FanDuel has him at 19. Steamer, I should be more
interesting.
Steamer does not like Luke Raley at all. Have him as a sub 2-win player, only 19 homers. Like a 2.02 batting average or something crazy like that.
I was going to think like, all right, maybe he's a sub 2-1 player because they project him at first base and they hate first base defense. Even if you're a good defensive first baseman, they hate you.
Matt
but
Olson.
Yeah.
Plus, again, WAR is cumulative. It's not expected that Raley's going to get a lot of at-bats against left-handed pitching. So already about 30% of the available at-bats to him are going to go to somebody else. So WAR is tricky with a guy like Raley, and that's why WAR is not the perfect number. It's not like the only stat that matters. It's just a very useful one. 19.5 home runs. I'm going to take the over. The power Safeco, T-Mobile, didn't really sap any of the power. We saw that Raley can take advantage of the short porch and right. But also
it's actually Porsche, Colby.
Yeah. Is it? I always get like which, because whatever.
Let us know in the comments below. Is it Porsche or Porsche?
Yeah.
Boom. Engagement.
Yeah. Boom. You might just win one. Not from us, but like someone else.
No.
But he took advantage of right field, and also he showed that he could, absolutely rip him out to right center field as well. There is no shortage of power. And Luke Raley, he doesn't hit cheap ones very often. And I think he's probably going to get around 500 plate appearances. I don't know where they're going to come from. Like, I assume mostly first base, but that doesn't matter. If he gets 500, I feel like he's going to hit 20 at least. So I think there's a non-zero shot he hits 30 with enough playing time. Like, he certainly has that raw power to do it. I think Raley's going to basically be what he was last year. I feel very comfortable with Luke Raley. He's kind of done it now 2 years in a row. And I think we should all kind of just expect Luke Raley to be a solid, strong side platoon hitter who is going to hit bombs. He's going to steal a couple of bags too, and just kind of be an energy guy in the middle of your lineup. So Raley, I'll take the over on 19.5.
So we could have done a ton of different over-unders for Julio. This is the one that I wound up landing on. 0.5 top 3 MVP votes. So he just needs one writer to believe that he was one of the 3 best players in the American League this year. So essentially this question is, do you think that Julio is going to go into play at that level this year?
I mean, the question is also, do you trust the writers to get this right?
Sure.
Because I think we know Aaron Judge is going to finish top 3. I think it's very likely that Bobby Witt Jr. is going to finish top 3.
Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah. So like if Julio has a better season than Gunnar Henderson or Bobby Witt Jr., is that going to matter to the writers?
See?
Now he only needs it to matter to one voter.
Yeah, just one
And keep
person.
in mind, 2 of those voters are from Seattle.
Yeah.
So, I think this is really do you think Julio will have a season worthy of MVP consideration? But that's not really an over-under. So,
No.
yeah, I mean, if he finishes 4th, right, is that like he's not a worthy MVP candidate? No.
It's basically, though, can he play, or do you think he'll play at a level that at least one writer will believe that he was one of the 3 best players this year?
I don't trust the writers more than I don't trust Julio. So it's a tough one.
I'll go over.
I think he gets divishes.
Okay. Here's kind of a biggie. Aaron's second baseman, 2.15 F4. Last year, the 15th ranked second base situation in baseball was at 2.2 F4. So will they be a league average unit at second base or not? It's basically what this question is.
I'm going to take the over. I think, just defense and base running alone, the upgrade you have there with Dylan Moore, Ryan Bliss, and Cole Young, the upgrade there over what Polanco gave you, probably going to account for at least a 1.5, I would think. And then it's kind of like, do they do enough with the bat? I mean, Dylan is who he is.
I would think with the defense and the base running, like they don't have to hit a ton in order for them to get here.
If the Mariners got like 100 WRC plus production from their second baseman, I think they'd probably be
It's a pretty similar discussion to the one that we just had about Robles, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think if they're about a league average offensive, if second base is a league average offensive position for the Mariners, with what we know about the speed, the base running, and the defense of the 3 guys who figure to most heavily influence that position, then I think it's probably a 3-win position. Because again, Dylan Moore is a very good defender, particularly at second base. Ryan Bliss has a lot of range. Cole Young, by all accounts, very good defender at second base. Dylan's stolen 30 bags in the season. I think Ryan Bliss stole close to 50 last year when you combine what he did in Tacoma and Seattle. And then Young, probably not a burner, but he's a good base runner and he's a good defender. So yeah, they're even close to league average. I think they beat this. Cole Young might be the X factor here. It's just tough because you have Dylan Moore. We know who Dylan Moore is offensively. It's not great. Mm-hmm. We don't know for sure what Ryan Bliss is, and we have no clue what Cole Young can do at 21 years old. So it's a tough one, but I'm going to take the over. I think the defense and the base running alone gets him pretty darn close.
Well, you mentioned him, Cole Young, 80.5 games played. That's what you set it at. So essentially, is he going to play at least half of a major league season or not?
I'm going to say exactly 80.5 games. Comes in as a pinch runner for Mitch Garver in the 5th inning.
Sure.
Take that. This one's a little bit easier to say push, but you appear for one action. It counts as a game played. Yep. So I will take the under. I'm not exactly sure when the Mariners play their 81st game. I would imagine it would be sometime late June, early July. So I'm not exactly sure when that is, but I think Dylan Moore and Bliss will hold it down long enough that the Mariners will let Young actually develop down into AAA and let him struggle, let him work through it like they did last year. I think those 2 guys will be just good enough. And I mean, Young might play 75 games.
Game 81 is June 27th against the Rangers.
Yeah, so by late June, I'll take the under. Still. I think Bliss and Moore can hold it down for that long. And also, I kind of think that whether they can or not, the Mariners just aren't going to – they're not going to push Cole Young.
Yeah, I'll take the under. And it's actually more so because I'm starting to kind of believe in Ryan Bliss.
Oh, boy.
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit on Ryan Bliss. I don't know.
4 months from now, Ty's going to be like, what can you get for Cole Young in a trade package?
Clearly.
Can you get Yandy Diaz for Cole Young? Should they?
I mean, he might be the shortstop of the future. Maybe not the second baseman. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'll take the under. I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up being the over. But also something to keep in mind, there's the possibility that he gets called up like in early June, and then he still is in some kind of platoon with the other two guys, or that he gets sent back down. So yeah, I just think in general, like I don't think this is the year that Cole Young like establishes himself as an everyday big league player. I think that's probably more next year. And because it's not happening this year, I don't think he's going to play in 81 games. So I'll take the under.
All right, we have a few more over-unders to go over in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Got a few more over-unders to look at here. How about this one? Mariners third baseman, 2.85 F4. So same thing as the second base prop. 2.9 F4 was the 15th ranked third base situation in baseball last year. So they're going to be a league average unit or not with Jorge Polanco right now looking to be the guy there, the primary option there.
I'll take the under.
Yeah, I'm taking the under too. The Mariners, to the surprise of many, actually finished fifth last year in third base F4. That was because of Josh Rojas's defense, and really only because of that. Like we talked about during our infield preview with Polanco, at least with Rojas, there was one tool that I felt pretty good about. With Polanco, there really isn't right now. At least until we see that he actually looks healthy and he's actually able to stay healthy.
Well, the joke's on us because Polanco just hit an RBI single.
Did he?
Yes.
Wow.
So I'm changing my answer.
All right.
Boom.
Five win season incoming for Jorge Polanco alone.
The RBI single.
He's actually had a pretty good last few days, by the way.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's to be expected. You know, takes a little while to get going.
Yeah.
You play 3 or 4 games, and yeah. So I would say the RBI single against Ross Stripling.
Ooh.
Stud.
What team is Ross Stripling on now?
The Royals.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm taking the under. Now, maybe Polo can get you like part of the way there, and then you go like acquire a good third baseman and he gets you the rest of the way there. But based on what's on the roster right now, I'm going to take the under.
Polanco could make us look stupid. I'm open to the possibility. Yeah. I'm open to that possibility. Would love for that to actually be a reality. Yeah, I don't feel great about it. And then if he doesn't work out, then like I'm a Donovan Solano guy, but I mean, there's a pretty hard cap on what Solano can bring to the table.
Right. Plus, you still need Solano to kind of, platoon with Raley, so he can't play third base every day.
And then it's like Demo, Williamson. And then it's Williamson, and then it's Shenton.
Yeah, I mean, like Demo might only factor in if, second base is good, if like Ryan Bliss is good. Yeah. And then, Shenton, like defensively, he's probably not going to get you there. So he's going to have to do it all with the bat. Williamson's probably going to have to do it all with the glove.
This is a higher bar to clear than the second base position. Like we're talking about almost a full win more than what we had on the second base prop. If this was the second base prop, I'd take the over. And if this, and vice versa, right? But yeah, 3 wins.
I don't know if I take 2 wins from the Mariners' third base spot right now. I just have no idea what Polanco looks like. Learning a new position, coming off of an injury,
Yeah, I don't know if they can get to 3 wins.
I mean, they only have to get to 2.9.
Sure.
So.
Thank you, Colby.
Yeah. They don't have to get to 3. Technically, they don't. I'll take the under. I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say that Jorge Polanco is not going to be on either of our flag lists, which are coming out not next week, but the week after.
32.5 wins versus AL West teams for the Mariners. They had 32 last year. They went 32-20.
Under.
Ooh.
Oakland and Texas are better than they were last year.
Will they win more games against the Angels at least?
You'd like to think so, but I think I've been a Mariner fan long enough to know no.
If they're winning under 32.5, I don't think they're a playoff team.
I'm not worried about it. Like they would play 52 games against the West. So that means they would have 110 games left. I think they'd probably win 65 of those. So that's how they're going to get there. By dominating everybody else. Well, you're taking the over? Because weren't they 11-2 against Texas last year?
Yeah, but I feel like that balances out with better performances against the Angels. I'll take the over.
Assume that?
For this exercise, yes. Yes. For the sake of this exercise, yes. And for the sake of trying not to be super down and try and be at least a little bit of an optimist, I'll go 34 wins, which I think that's what they had in 2023.
Just saying the Mariners are going to win 100 games this year. They're just going to do it by only winning 30 against their division.
So we've done this episode 3 or 4 times over the course of us doing this show now. And every single time we do this over-under show, we always have this prop. Mariners 0.5 brawls.
What constitutes a brawl? Punches being thrown, bullpens empty.
Very expected question from you. Yes, punches actually being thrown.
Parameter.
Something that looks similar to what happened in Anaheim a couple of years ago.
Nothing that happened with the Astros the last couple of years counts.
No.
So we're talking suspensions are going to happen.
Fists have to be thrown.
Okay, I'll take the under. Hope it's over. Now, I want to be very specific.
We are Team Brawl here. For those of you who are new, a lot of you already know this, but for those of you who are relatively new to the show, or maybe this is your first episode of Locked On Mariners, we are 100% Team Brawl. What happened in Anaheim 2 years ago was like one of the most exciting things that has ever happened to us in our time covering this team.
Not unironically, that's when our show really started to take off too. We really started to It had nothing to do with the ensuing 14-game win streak in the
that might have been our best episode ever, by the way. Was the aftermath of that.
Awesome. Now here's the deal. We are Team Brawl.
Yep.
I will say there's a very specific type of brawl that I want.
We are also team don't get hurt, don't get suspended forever.
Drop the bat, right? No weapons except for your fist. And it's push some guys, whatever. Like you don't necessarily have to go JP Crawford throwing hammers over the top of a pile. It helps, but you don't need it. Just a good push and shove and somebody trying to be the tough guy and get to the front of the line, or you could be like Mike Trout and be a cowering little baby who started the brawl but just sat in the back like, oh, stop guys, I didn't want this. Coward. Mike Trout 6'4", 240 is like, I don't want none of this. JP Crawford's crazy. So I believe Archie Bradley also broke his arm in that brawl.
Yeah.
Not from getting hit. He did it to himself. Let's be very clear about that. I think that a team should aim to have one brawl every year. It's good for you. I mean, maybe not physically for a little bit, but
it did seem to bring that team closer together in 2022.
It did. So we're Team Brawl. I really hope it's over. And Dan Wilson, let me tell you, the 90s Mariners, they were in some brawls. Okay. So maybe we get, but I think more than likely we get kind of like the Scott Service special where coaches are just yelling at each other from across the dugouts. And then like maybe you take a couple steps onto the field and they're like, whatever. The Jeff Bannisters, if you will.
I am interested to see how much we see Dan pop off this year.
Yeah. I mean, Dan doesn't really have that like reputation of being like hot headed or anything or confrontational really. He's just kind of a like Midwest, like, oh, geez, that's terrible type of thing.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. It's very like, that's terrible. You stink type of thing. But you know what? Scott Service was from the Midwest and it didn't happen often, but when it did, Scott was pretty good. It didn't happen as often as it should have.
Yeah.
But when he did decide to do it, it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I am still a fan of ejections and I'm still a fan of brawls. Those are like the two old things in baseball that I don't ever want to see go away.
Yeah, for real. All right. Last prop of the day. 85.5 regular season wins for the Mariners. So this is what our friends over at FanDuel have for the Mariners. I think that's a pretty good spot for the M's. 85.5 wins.
They also won 85 games last year.
Yeah. So, and they didn't do really anything this offseason to the roster that changes things too dramatically.
Technically, if you think Randy Arozarena and Victor Robles, kind of offseason additions, and Matt Brash and Gregory Santos.
And if you think about it, Colby, I hate you.
I mean, I don't have to think about it to know that.
Yeah.
But no, I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'll take the over. I don't know how significantly over, though. I might be at like 86, 87.
As much as we joke about like the whole like Randy Arozarena is technically an offseason addition, like which is garbage. Let's be.
It does help. Yes. But
having a full season of Randy, a full season of Victor, hopefully, I'm fingers crossed, full season of like Santos and Spire, and at some point you're going to get Brash back. Like those are some really impactful dudes, and basically a full season of Justin Turner, more or less, with Solano. With Solano. Like, those are some dudes. Okay. And they can accumulate some wins pretty quickly just by themselves. And that's not even counting the, like kind of the side effect of like, hey, if Brash and Santos and Spire are good, Munoz doesn't have to pitch as much, which means maybe he can be even a little bit better because he's not tired all the time. And maybe Randy Arozarena can carry the offense for a little bit so that when Julio goes into the ditch, it doesn't crash the entire thing, and he can kind of help lift the ships and all that stuff. So I think they're over. Like, I do think they are a better roster today than they were a year ago. Mm-hmm. Are they better than they were 6 months ago?
Probably about the same.
I mean, it kind of depends on Brash and Spire and Santos, right? So like, and even those three guys combined is probably worth what, another win or two? Yeah. And so like, that's not counting any regression. That's not counting any growth though. So, it's very difficult. This is why we always, kind of pick ranges of where we think the Mariners can end up. But if I have to pick a number, I would say it would be higher than 85.5.
Yeah, I mean, like if you told me this team, like everything went right for them and they won 90 plus games, I'd believe you. If you told me things bottom out and they won 76, I'd believe you. If you told me that there was just like they fell in some middle ground and they won like 82, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like 80 feels like the floor to me. I mean, barring injuries, like like significant injuries.
So I'll go over on this. But I'm probably at like 86, 87 wins, which still might win you the division because I don't think any team in this division is a 90-win team. Like if things go extremely well for them, like, if, and the same could be said for the Mariners as well. Yeah, sure. One of these teams could win 90 plus games, but I just realistically speaking, or just like trying to kind of attack this from some sort of middle angle, I don't think any of these teams are like surefire 90-win teams. So
I mean, 87 wins would have gotten you in last year.
Yeah.
Technically 86 wins and not blowing an 8-0 lead in the 5th inning to Kansas City would have gotten you in. So, who's to say? But I think the American League is wide open. I really don't think there's a dominant team here. So I mean, the Central gets a huge leg up because they get to beat up on the White Sox 13 times a year each, and you only get to face them 6 times. But yeah, I do think the American League's kind of bunched up there, and it might only take 86, 87 wins to secure a playoff spot like it did last year. But I don't know. I think if everything goes well for the Mariners, we're talking about 95 plus wins, not 90 plus. So I'm have a higher floor than you do on the Mariners this year.
Higher ceiling, rather.
And floor, I think.
Yeah, you said 80 wins is the floor for you.
Yeah, I mean, again, assuming they don't bottom out with injuries, which is always sadly a possibility with any team.
I think more what I was trying to say, though, is just like I could buy really any sort of outcome that you tell me with this team. All right. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez, Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.